Nuclear weapons are among the most terrifying creations of humanity. With the capability to wipe out entire cities and cause long lasting environmental damage, these weapons carry a weight of moral, political, and strategic complexity unlike any other armament. Despite the existence of thousands of nuclear warheads across the globe, no country has used a nuclear weapon in conflict since 1945. Why is this? And what would happen if a nuclear bomb were used again? To understand the hesitation, we must first look at the origins and sheer destructive power of nuclear weapons. The world's first atomic bombs were dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 during the final months of World War II. These bombings killed an estimated 200,000 people, many instantly from the blast, with others succumbing later to radiation sickness and injuries. The devastation was unlike anything seen before. Entire city blocks were reduced to rubble. Survivors faced horrific burns, radiation poisoning, and long-term health effects such as cancer and genetic damage. The psychological trauma and social upheaval were immense. The bombs forced Japan's surrender and ended the war, but the moral and humanitarian cost was staggering. Since then, nuclear weapons technology advanced dramatically. Thermonuclear or hydrogen bombs are hundreds or thousands of times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. A single modern warhead can level a city, kill millions, and trigger a chain of consequences that affect the entire planet. One of the biggest reasons countries hesitate to use nuclear weapons is the doctrine of deterrence. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union entered an intense arms race, building thousands of nuclear weapons in a bid for military superiority. However, instead of leading to nuclear war, this buildup created a fragile peace based on the threat of mutually assured destruction, or MAD. MAD means that if any nuclear power launches a first strike, other nuclear-armed states would retaliate with overwhelming force, ensuring total destruction on both sides. This knowledge has acted as a powerful deterrent, preventing direct nuclear conflict for more than 75 years. The logic is simple but brutal. Using nuclear weapons would guarantee devastation not just for the enemy, but also for the attacker. No rational leader wants to invite annihilation. This uneasy balance has kept nuclear war at bay, despite high tensions during the Cold War and even today. Beyond deterrence, international law and global norms strongly discourage the use of nuclear weapons. Treaties like the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, signed in 1968 and ratified by 191 countries, seek to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament. The NPT recognizes 5 nuclear-armed states, but requires them to pursue disarmament, while non-nuclear states agree not to develop such weapons. Other agreements, such as the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, prohibit nuclear testing, while various arms control treaties limit the number and types of nuclear weapons held by countries. Countries that break these rules risk severe diplomatic consequences, including sanctions and isolation. The global community largely condemns the use of nuclear weapons because of their indiscriminate destruction and the immense human suffering they cause. The moral weight of nuclear weapons is enormous. Using a nuclear bomb means killing millions of civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. The bombs do not discriminate between soldiers and civilians. This massive loss of innocent life conflicts with widely accepted ethical norms and international humanitarian law. Many political leaders and citizens around the world see nuclear weapons as immoral and inhumane. This broad consensus fuels movements calling for complete nuclear disarmament and influences governments to avoid crossing the nuclear threshold. Nuclear detonations cause catastrophic immediate damage, but the long-term environmental and health impacts are equally alarming. The intense radiation released can contaminate soil, water, and air, causing cancers and genetic mutations for generations. One of the greatest fears is the possibility of nuclear winter, a hypothetical global climatic catastrophe that would result from massive fires ignited by nuclear blasts. The smoke and soot would rise into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and drastically lowering temperatures worldwide. This could destroy crops and disrupt ecosystems, potentially causing widespread famine and collapse of civilizations. The lasting environmental damage extends beyond the blast zones, threatening the entire planet's ecosystems and food supply. The economic consequences of nuclear weapon use would be devastating. The destruction of infrastructure, businesses, and homes would cripple the affected regions. Vital services such as hospitals, transportation, water, and electricity would collapse. Global supply chains would be disrupted, affecting trade and markets worldwide. Financial markets could crash due to uncertainty and panic. The cost of rebuilding devastated cities would be enormous, diverting resources from other critical needs like education and health. Socially, the trauma and displacement of millions of people would create refugee crises, strain social services, and potentially lead to political instability and conflict in affected and neighboring countries. Even though countries hesitate to use nuclear weapons intentionally, the risk of accidental or unintended nuclear war remains. Miscommunications, false alarms, or cyber attacks could trigger a nuclear response by mistake. The potential for escalation during crises is another concern. A conventional conflict between nuclear powers could spiral out of control, with one side resorting to nuclear weapons if it feels threatened or cornered. This risk increases tensions and instability in volatile regions such as South Asia or the Korean Peninsula. Another frightening possibility is the use of nuclear weapons or dirty bombs by terrorist groups. While building a true nuclear bomb requires highly sophisticated technology and materials, groups could potentially acquire nuclear material to create smaller, crude nuclear devices or radiological weapons. The use of such weapons by non-state actors would create chaos and mass casualties, bypassing traditional deterrence mechanisms, since terrorists do not have a return address or fear of retaliation in the same way countries do. Countries that actually use nuclear weapons would likely face severe global condemnation. Their political standing would deteriorate rapidly, with sanctions, trade embargoes, and potential military action from coalitions of nations. Using nuclear weapons could isolate a country diplomatically and economically, potentially crippling its development and global influence. This prospect acts as a strong deterrent for governments considering nuclear use. Recognizing the devastating consequences, many nations and international organizations work toward nuclear disarmament and arms control. Dialogues, treaties, and confidence-building measures aim to reduce nuclear arsenals and prevent proliferation. Countries pursue diplomatic solutions to conflicts, preferring conventional weapons or negotiations over nuclear options. Efforts such as the Iran nuclear deal and talks with North Korea seek to limit nuclear capabilities through peaceful means. In summary, countries hesitate to use nuclear bombs because of the unparalleled destruction they cause, the risk of mutual annihilation, international laws, moral objections, and the long-term environmental and social fallout. The doctrine of deterrence and international norms have so far prevented nuclear war despite geopolitical tensions. However, the continued existence of nuclear weapons remains one of the greatest threats to global security. Accidents, misunderstandings, or new geopolitical crises could still spark nuclear conflict with catastrophic consequences. The future depends on strengthening diplomatic efforts, reducing nuclear stockpiles, preventing proliferation, and maintaining strong communication between nuclear powers. Only by recognizing the horrific consequences and exercising great restraint can humanity avoid repeating the horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.